When I first saw the trailer for the movie Deepwater Horizon, my initial thought was that it felt a little bit too soon given how recent of a tragedy that this actually was. But after actually seeing the movie and seeing how delicately and just kind of overall good they handled the whole story, I think it's probably okay. In short, Deepwater Horizon is a movie that has quite a bit of buildup that goes at a pretty slow pace before eventually exploding into pretty much hell on earth on an oil rig 40 miles off the coast. In a lot of ways, it almost feels like two separate movies because for the first 40 minutes, you're getting a lot of introduction to characters, a lot of technical jargon about oil rigs, oil pressure, and all the things going on with that, some disputes over safety measures, and then eventually in the last half of the movie, again, absolute chaos. The story in a lot of ways obviously does center around Mark Wahlberg's character, who plays the role of Mike Williams, who was an electrician on the Deepwater Horizon, but I think overall they do a good job of sort of involving everybody and showing a lot of the moving parts that were involved, a lot of the different people that were involved, and the overall scope of this disaster and what it had to have been like on an oil rig that is just exploding from every direction with oil burning, pressure pipes busting. It's in a lot of ways pretty chilling to think that actual people went through this and not very long ago. And I think that relatability as to how recent this news was sort of is a lot of what gives this movie its legs. You can relate to this because if you were paying attention to the news back in 2010, you remember this happening. This was a huge deal. But to see just how insane it had to have been for the people actually there, it's again really chilling and almost uncomfortable in a lot of ways to actually see it play out as to how it would have gone, and in the end seeing, people get reunited with their families and whatnot. It was moving in a big way. Honestly, toward the end of the movie, my eyes got a little bit misty because you see these characters that we've only gotten to know even a little bit, but they go through this entire ordeal, and you know that this ordeal was recent and that it happened, and when you see them finally get to safety and be reunited with family and things like that, it's genuinely moving to know that yes, these people did make it out, but also plenty heart-wrenching to know that some people didn't. And I think that's probably the biggest respect where this movie handled itself appropriately, in that with the people that were unfortunately lost with this whole ordeal, they gave them characters. They put at least an actor's face to their name and gave some substance to them and showed what they contributed to try and mitigate this disaster at least the best they could, or whatever other heroic actions they might have been involved in. I know it might sound like I'm gushing over this movie to make it sound like it was indeed better than it actually was, but I think you have to give a lot of credit for them for handling something like this as appropriately as I felt they did. And honestly, on the whole, this was a pretty good movie. If I was making any complaint about it, I would say that over the first 30 minutes or so of the movie, every bit of dialogue between characters has the sense that it was written as if they were best friends since first grade and they know each other. Everything they say is witty and joking and right on point, and it's just not really like that, and I thought it took away from some of the other potential development that they could have had for some of the characters, because everybody Mark Wahlberg goes and talks to is just right there with them, buddy. And I do hate to have to be critical of this movie, but that one particular aspect was indeed over the top and definitely bothersome in the whole thing. I really did enjoy this movie. I thought the last hour or so was intense as hell. I thought it did a good job of sort of painting the picture of just how much of a disaster that this was and what exactly would have gone on in that scenario, and also the executives from BP that were present throughout this all. I thought it's important to point out just how shitty they were with this whole thing, and I particularly liked, there's one last shot that you get of sort of the pseudo villain of the movie, and sure enough, on his hard hat, front and center, pretty clear when everything's covered in oil and everybody else is blood and oil everywhere, but you got that BP logo right there for that asshole. Those things, along with how well I felt they did with conveying the actual human emotion of going through something as traumatic as that, as well as surviving that and trying to get back to real life, I thought they did a fantastic job, and because of that, I would recommend Deepwater Horizon to pretty much anybody. But I'm curious to know what you think if you've seen Deepwater Horizon. Whatever thoughts you have, feel free to share them in the comments below. If you like this video, please be sure to click the like button, subscribe if you want more videos like this one, but above all else, everybody, thank you so much for watching.